So I just watched the latest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. It was a good one. I'm excited to talk about it. But just before we do, have a little announcement to make. We've had some upgrades on the channel. I decided to do all my upgrades together. So the first big upgrade is we have a new camera, which is this guy now. So hello, I'm still trying to work out how to use a DSLR, so if this doesn't look amazing, I'm sorry, but it should look better than this one. But we actually have two cameras at the moment, which is interesting. I mean, I don't know if this is going to come up in post, but that background does not look like that background. I'm just saying, so there's one thing already. The goal of this camera is for, in the future, I can have a nice blurry background where I'm nice and crisp in front, and that'll look amazing. But that's not all. We also have a brand new microphone. So even though my Audio-Technica AT 2020, fantastic piece of kit, we're actually moving on to... This is a Rode Video Mic Pro Plus. As John Hammond would say from Jurassic Park, I spared no expense. The internet was saying, get the upgraded version, so I was like, alright then, I'll get it. That is a nightmare to figure out how to use, but I know it can be good, so I'm going to be trying to smooth out all the rough edges if there's any problem with this audio. Worst case scenario, if what you're hearing now is just still my Audio-Technica AT 2020, because the only reason I want this shotgun mic is because it just picks up this, so you won't hear any background noise, and it should be nice and crisp and clear, but we'll just see how things go. But other than that though, welcome to the new Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS review. We can switch between two cameras, even though that'll probably be horrible for this review. We'll do it for just this one, just for fun. So then, the latest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS. It was weird seeing the Knights of Hanoi actually working together with Yusaku and the gang, specifically with Kusanagi. It's like Kusanagi's getting all the camera work all set up, and he sends it over to the Knights of Hanoi, and they're like, oh, Kusanagi's sent us all the data now. He's like, oh, that Kusanagi's a pretty sweet hacker. And they're like, could you imagine if they all like properly worked together, the amount of amazing stuff they'd be able to do. But it was just weird seeing them complementing what only a few seasons ago they were adversaries. I love stuff like that. When the antagonists work with the protagonists to fight a common threat, it's always fantastic. And just before we move on to the more serious stuff that happened in the episode, when was it established that Blue Maiden can fly? Was that always a thing? Because she's got like those little wings. I mean, I think she's always had those wings, but she's like flying around without her D-board or whatever they're called now. So it's like, has she always been able to do that? Was that established in the last episode or this episode? Did I miss that? I don't know, that might have even happened in this episode, I missed it, my bad. So today's episode was all about the duel between Spectre and Lightning, and the reason why Lightning chose Spectre first to fight, there was a few different levels why he chose him, but the main one was that Spectre deduces that, now the reason that you went after, oh god I forgot his name, not Soul Crusher, Blood Shepherd, Soul Crusher. The reason you went after Blood Shepherd was because you deemed him the weakest of us all. By himself, he would be the weakest, that's why you went for him. So by that logic, you're going for me, aren't you? Because you think I'm the weakest. It's so weird switching between characters. I'm sorry. So the reason he chose Spectre to fight is because he deemed him the weakest out of all the people in the crew. Spectre doesn't take much offense to this because he knows Spectre doesn't take much offense to this because, as we know later on in the duel, he actually had a trump card, which I thought was quite interesting because, well, we'll get to that when we get to the duel, but the other reason why they wanted to take on Spectre individually, just the reason why they want to take people on individually as well, even though it's obvious that people alone are weaker than those that unite together, the reason that they say this is because humans have a very specific skill to them. That skill is, what was it called? What did they say it was? The human bond skill. I wrote it as a skill, you know, like in the speed duels. So the human bond skill is where humans come together and their power grows, and you shouldn't underestimate that no matter how powerful you are, which I like that the enemies, Lightning, is sort of validating that kind of thing. Like most enemies were like, fool, I'll defeat you all, you're all weak, you're all insects standing on top of each other or something like that. That's what a typical antagonist would say, but Lightning is more realistic. He's like, listen, we are better than these guys, but together they could stand a threat. Let's just weed them out first, and then we'll kill them all. So I like that about Lightning. But the way the duel goes I find quite interesting because literally Lightning, I think it was first turn he did this, he got the extra link, but the only reason he was able to do it so easily was because he had his link spell card. So when he got his extra link, this completely shuts down Spectre's deck. He knew that Spectre relies on his extra deck monsters, which is pretty much every deck anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You can say that about any character, they all rely on their extra deck. So Spectre has to come up with a way to get rid of it. And the way that he does this is that he has a card that can steal a continuous spell card. Now normally, if this would have come out of nowhere, I would say that's an absolute BS of a card. That is built specifically to counter that card, and you'd have to know that card was in their deck to put that in your deck. However, we've had a lot of setup for this. Revolver's been going around telling people all about how to counter the continuous spell card. So the fact that Spectre had that in his deck is completely believable, because he knew what he would be fighting. He knew that his opponent would be using this card. So him being able to take it off his opponent, I thought was really good. So even though he didn't have his extra monster zones, he had created some new little zones for him underneath, which I thought was pretty cool. It also makes me hope that those cards never come to the actual card game, because they would be very broken, I think. I think they would be broken. I wonder if anyone's made a video about it, like the what-if scenario if those came into the real-world card game. It could be interesting. But yeah, the duel goes on. Spectre is able to turn it around a little bit on Lightning, then Lightning does some good plays as well. But I think some of the things that they say back and forth are quite interesting. I think Spectre had 2 lines in this episode, one of which, if you take out of context, is like, oh, like I could just see someone just doing like a screenshot of it, saying like, Spectre's not very progressive. The quote was, this is what he said anyway in the sub. He says that equality is only an ideal. It never actually exists, or something like that. Which, he's actually talking about power, people's strength. So he's like, not all people are born strong. You have to either work your way up or go with the strong to raise yourself up. But if you just took that one quote out of context, you're like, oh, Spectre, no. Equality, man. But I do think something really big happened in this duel, and this was the fact that Spectre was able to rattle Lightning's cage, where he looked visibly annoyed. And in the preview for the next episode as well, he looks even worse. Spectre doesn't look that much better either. Like, it's 2 crazy people going against each other. But, like, Spectre says to him that, I know that you have some sort of complex, which, just go with, like, a god complex or something like that. He probably has. And he also says that you also have a secret that you have never revealed. And this line triggers Lightning, and he gets really, like, annoyed with him saying that. He's like, shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. So, yeah, I'm curious to see what this is. What is this secret that Spectre seems to think that he is hiding, that Lightning might be hiding? Do we have a twist coming soon? Lightning is actually, I don't know what a little twist kind of thing. What ulterior motive would he had? I don't know. I'm curious. But the episode ends with Spectre getting out his tree link monster, the one that he like loves. It was the tree that he hid beneath or something after the last incident. And there's a theme as well in this episode about suffering, I think it was. Because Spectre has suffered in the past, that's how he knows he's strong now, because he's grown in strength. Oh, I should have written more of that down. It was quite important. And it was more of a counter to how the Ignises live. They don't know suffering because they didn't grow up harsh environment or anything. I mean, Lightning does retort that I'm here trying to defeat you guys. Now, if we hadn't come out and started this war, if we just stayed in our little bubble inside of the VRAINS world, you still wouldn't have left us alone, I don't think. I think you would have still come for us. So we're just taking the initiative and we're attacking you before you attack us. So it is a complex series, Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS, because no one's really in the wrong. No one's really the main. No one's a true protagonist or a true villain in this series, I don't think. You've got one for pure human rights with the Knights of Hanoi. You have one for pure AI rights, which is the Ignises. You have an intermediate, which is Yusaku and the gang, who kind of want a nice little balance between the two. And then you also have Soul Technologies, which I think is the enslavement of AIs, as well as the enslavement or sacrifice of humans as well, because they're willing to sacrifice humans to progress their AI abilities and stuff. So I like that. Everyone's got sort of like a goal that they're trying to achieve. I guess probably Soul Technology is actually the real main villain at the moment. It's interesting. I like the Yu-Gi-Oh! VRAINS series. I do have my problems with the series. I say this nearly every episode, but yeah, I thought this episode was good. I'd love to know what you guys thought in the comment section below. I'd also like you to tell me if this camera is much better now with the DSLR. So let me know in the comment section below. The lighting is something I think I need to work on with the shadows. I think the lighting will be the next thing I purchase, but we'll give it a little while. We'll stick at this for now. But other than that though, guys, thank you very much for watching. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and catch you later.